I'll give you an introduction into the mobile threats, the threats and risk in development of mobile applications. Give an overview of the top 10 of these threats and how to deal with them. Okay, who are we? So we see these three guys, you can see them in this room as well. We're members of our innovation lab within ChaseOB. One of the things we developed in this innovation lab are mobile banking applications, which happens to be the topic of today. Who do we see? With my colleague Jaro. You all recognize the flag. He's one of the rare Slovak members we have in the team, it's an international team. Jaro is our project lead, our scrum master of the mobile application development team. We also have Gustavo. So Gustavo, he is our iOS specialist and also security specialist. That's me. I'm what we call a program scrum master. Short introduction, what is ChaseOB? ChaseOB is, well, you all know it. It's a bank insurance company. It's a part of an international group called KBC, which has 11 million customers, like 50,000 employees. International company, and Slovakia is one of the key markets. Very interesting, but let's go to the topic. Mobile applications. Well, today, 2012, we see mobile applications everywhere. Smartphones everywhere. If I ask you who's the guy, is there someone in this room who does not have a smartphone? I think that deserves an umbrella. So you see, not a lot of people. Everybody, you see smartphones everywhere, you see mobile applications everywhere. To give you an example, we at ChaseOB, we made a mobile banking application, and it's really customers of this application, they have it in their pockets all the time. Means they're busy with this application continuously. And that's the nature of mobile applications. The success of this application also means that creates a new market for these guys. Mobile applications become more and more important, so also more and more interesting for these guys. So also a new point of attention in development of mobile apps. What can you do about it? Well, this genius said the most secure solution is not doing anything. When you don't have a mobile application, you don't have a problem. But that was not an option for ChaseOB. We really want to have this nice, beautiful application. The mobile application, if you would ask me in this presentation, you made mobile banking, was a security model. Well, my answer would be this, I'm not going to share it with you. The only thing I can tell, we created something with different layers, and you have to pass by all these different layers before you can hack us. As I do not trust you, I cannot give you more details. I hope you understand this. What I am going to explain you today are some general principles. Things you have to take into account, things to look at. What are the mobile threats, how to deal with it, without going into the details of our solution, because maybe 10 of you or even more are the hackers. So I'm not going to give you the details, I'm not going to make it too easy. So the mobile threat model. If we talk about security and we're thinking about web applications, that's well known. We already have web applications for more than 20 years, almost even 30 years, so that's business as usual. Mobile applications, on the other hand, and a lot of people underestimate this, that's another story. It's a bit more complex. The differences with traditional web are just the nature of mobile applications. For instance, I can use it on the train. I myself never did internet banking on the train on my laptop. Will not work. When I'm on the train, I can forget my mobile phone, so already a security risk. You also have multiple platforms, which really are different. Android, iOS, Symbian, Completely different. So it's not just one or two browsers different. It's also much, much more than only the application. You also have to deal with the mobile network. You have to deal with device-specific security threats, and so on and so on. So you also have a lot of external dependencies which you, as a developer of an application, simply cannot control. They're out of your control. So if you look at an application, a mobile application, here, this guy, on this device, it communicates, it cooperates with a lot of other things. Of course, it runs on an operating system, which runs on hardware. It can connect to other devices via Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, NFC. Could even have a cable or wire connected directly to your laptop. It will connect to a network, a mobile operator, something else, to the internet, and via the internet the apps will connect to web services, app stores, for instance when you just download it, to other websites to get information or to show an information page, and will probably, if you have a real decent application, also connect to back-end services. For instance, when I'm talking about a bank, back-end services to check your account balance. So what can we trust? Cannot trust these things, cannot trust this. So cannot trust the Wi-Fi, cannot trust the direct connection. I cannot trust third-party websites. Know what they do today, don't know what they will do tomorrow. Out of my control. Can I trust the app stores? Any idea? No. Am I sure on the Android market if I see ChaseB app, that it's really the application of ChaseB? Anybody can create an app and call it ChaseB mobile banking. So cannot trust it. Can I trust web services created by third party? No. Can I trust a network, mobile operator or Wi-Fi? No? Yeah, so I cannot trust this one. Yeah, erase it. Can I trust my internal backends? So to check my account balance. I'm this guy, I know I have a backend here. Am I really sure I can trust this guy? Any ideas? It's created within the same company, but can I really trust it? I also cannot trust this. I'm calling someone, but is he really the guy who I think he is? Can I trust my operating system? No. Can also not trust the hardware. So, have this guy left. Not much. So we should make sure that at least we can trust the application I'm developing. Because he has to, this application, this guy has to cooperate with a whole world of insecure things. And that's what this presentation is about. So let's see what, as a developer of mobile applications, you have to take into account. To do this, in the US, they had few smart guys who set up an organization called OWASP. The main focus was at the time for internet applications. So here the Open Web Application Security Project. We were also thinking, what are the most common risks, threats for mobile applications? These 10 risks, we'll dive into more detail from this slide on. First one, insecure data storage. Yeah. I hope you guys still recognize this. I was a bit in doubt, so I'm a bit older. That thing was really, could really not trust it. So what is insecure data storage? When do we have this problem? When we store data somewhere in an unprotected way. On your local device, on an SD card, on the cloud. You would really be surprised what some applications, mobile applications, where they store the data. What's the consequence of this? If I have sensitive data and I store it on a local phone, not encrypted. We as a bank are certainly not going to store your account balance in an unsecure way. Because if you forget your phone on the train, the next person who finds it, oh, that's interesting. Even as your name, your address, huge amount. I think I'm going to pass by overnight. I think it's worth it. So, for sure, an enormous risk. And a lot of applications have mistakes with this. So, how could we prevent this? How can we prevent that we store data in an unprotected way? Any ideas? Store encrypted, yeah. So stored encrypted. But even more important, do not store anything at all. Only store data on a local device when you really cannot avoid it. So definitely do not store sensitive data in local log files. And a lot of developers do this. System logs where they store debug info. That's really not what you want to do. And when you have to store data, think about, consider if it's a good idea to use APIs which are provided by the platform. A lot of these APIs are really powerful and secure. And of course, do not store password credentials. When we look at this example, do you really want to do this in a mobile application? Remember me with the password. And again, the example, I forget my phone on the train. And although it might be encrypted, it's not safe. I find it, I just happen to be, it's a lie, but I just happen to be a good developer. I have all the time of the world to decrypt it and have your user ID and passwords. And probably you will even use the same password on other applications. So you do not store these things locally. Second risk, weak server-side controls. Weak server-side controls. This is in fact not mobile specific. It also goes for online web applications. This deals about backends, platforms which are not really secure, APIs which are not secure. Can cause a lot of problems, privacy violations, or I can connect to an API I'm not supposed to connect to and get this friend's account balance while I'm not supposed to do it. These problems are often caused by the fact that they connect mobile applications to an existing ICT architecture which is not really compatible with the mobile apps. They had a backend dedicated for a web application. Oh, okay, this backend mobile app in front of it, and I forgot a lot of things. So that's introducing a security risk. How to prevent? Well, it's not one silver bullet, but at least what you should do, study the risk mobile applications bring to your current existing architecture. Sounds easy, but it's really not. The third risk, insufficient transport layer protection. So the moment you communicate over the internet, over any transport medium, you have to make sure that you do it in a secure way. I see a lot of applications, JSB of course not, that do this in an unsecure way. Just connect to the internet, not protected, all your personal data unprotected over the internet. You can see your user credentials, your passwords, your account balance, whoop, over the internet. You do not want to do this. You also have the risk to meet these three things. So, man-in-the-middle attacks means someone, smart guy, detects, oh, this transport layer is not protected. I can put myself in the middle, receive all the information, even the tampering. I can change the information. You ask for your account balance, it's 2,000 euro, but I'm going to change it in 500 euro. That's even innocent. I could also, you do a money transfer to this account, I'm going to change it, I make it my account. I'm not even talking about her, okay. You will lose, you publish your data. How to deal with this? Very easy, encrypt all sensitive data. And also, very important and very often forgotten, once you introduce encryption logic, you also have to renew the encryption logic on a regular basis. Because it doesn't make sense to have the same encryption logic for 2 years. A smart hacker will have 2 years the time to find it out. So encrypt all data transmitted, makes sense, and take security warnings serious. Very obvious, we have seen serious mistakes with it. A certificate error, because it was not renewed, whatever, and gives an error. And the system manager, he sees the error, but well, the application is still functioning, so I don't think it's a problem. Really happens a lot. I'm not going to touch it, it works. But will not work. You lost all the security. So take this serious. A real life example. I know an application, I think 80% of you will use it. It's called Gmail, which sends your credentials over HTTP, plain HTTP. So if you use a public Wi-Fi, like we just happen to have here today, I can trace all the info and get all your user credentials. So that's certainly not what you want to do with a mobile application, have this risk. Yeah. Risk number 4, client-side injection. That's not new. That's also something we already know for 25 years. It existed on web applications, but it also exists in mobile applications. In mobile applications, and a lot of people underestimate this, I can have exactly the same. I can also enter a SQL statement, or with hybrid applications, which are a combination of a native app and HTML technology, enter HTML code or JavaScript or whatever script. So the same problem that existed on web applications also exists in these mobile applications. But on top of this, with mobile apps, there's an extra dimension to it. I will give an example in risk number 7, but you can also abuse local apps by client-side injection. How to prevent the client-side injection? So basically the same as we used to do on web applications. Pay attention to validating all data coming from untrusted third parties. Thinking I call a website, I call a web service. Before I process this data, first do a little screening. No HTML tags in it, no JavaScript. See if is it secure. And last but not least, should be common practice, everybody should know this. Database calls should be prepared statements. Could be with parameters, but never concatenation. Concatenation really opens the gates for HTML injection. That's something you do not want to do. Risk number 5, poor authorization and authentication. Well, don't think I need to explain a lot about it because the title says it all. Some applications are simply not well protected. They rely on immutable, potentially compromised identifiers. Some mobile applications, they even think, well, okay, I'm a mobile app. As an identifier, I can use the device ID. Each device has an ID, like a MAC address or whatever. I'm going to use this as an identifier in my application. Any idea what could be the problem with this? If I use such an ID, can be faked. We still have an umbrella. Can be used as protection, the umbrella. Can be faked, that's one problem. Another problem, when I sell my device to someone else, he will reuse the device ID, and it's clear, it's another client. So we really do not want this. Yeah. How to prevent that kind of problems? Of course, never use a device ID or subscriber ID as the only thing as the only authenticator. Instead, you typically use multi-factor authentication, especially when you're talking about financial applications. So I might have a user ID. I combine this maybe with a device ID. It's not bad to combine it. And on top of it, I have an extra ID, something that changes all the time. And you can even improve it by distribution of this combination of authenticators over different levels. So it's not only on your front-end app, it's also on middleware, on the back end, everything together. The next threat, improper session handling. On the previous slide we saw this guy, Cookie Monster. You all know him? Well, he likes improper session handling. When you do this in an application, you will end up with a cookie monster. And that's really not what you want. So this is really one of the huge differences with traditional web applications. Because mobile applications typically have a session timeout, which is much, much longer than on web applications for user convenience and usability. But is that a good idea? Again, the example, I'm in the train. I'm doing my mobile banking application, doing some transactions. And as I do not want to log in again every 5 minutes, we put a session timeout. It's not true. We put a session timeout on 1 hour for user convenience. I'm on the train, train stops, I leave, I forgot my mobile phone. What's the result? Next guy comes in the train, haha, an iPhone, that's nice. I can use that. Haha, mobile banking application, that's still active. I'm going to do some money transfers, So that's not what you want. You also do not want to store too many things locally on the device, like cookies and so on. You do not want this. Everything you store locally can be abused afterwards. So how to prevent this kind of problems? Really enforce the users to re-authenticate after a fixed time. While they're active in the application, of course, you're not going to pop up. You just want to press the submit button and then logged off that you do not want. But if they have a period of idle time, and you can have it really short, automatically log them off. Another thing you can do, especially with iPhones, very easy. When I shake my application, I automatically log off. So, can't see that, I have my phone, busy with it, someone steals it, runs away, so shaking, log off. Small things. Also be sure that your tokens you use to authenticate, that you can cancel them from distance and very fast. That you from distance, you take your, you don't have your phone anymore, take a friend's phone, call your bank, say, please block my application, that I can do it. It's not only for mobile banking, it's for applications in general where you deal with sensitive data. And do not use the non-persistent identifiers, like a device ID. That's persistent, always available, always on this device. Yeah? Risk number 7. Security decisions via untrusted input. It's a bit related to the HTML injection. Example I'm going to show, I have an iPad, well, a mobile application. I have an entry field. I'm supposed to enter my name. Then this guy comes up. He has some malware installed on my application where he's going to use abuse my iOS URL schemes. And he enters this guy. So I'm entering my name, but behind the scenes, this is entered. So, security decisions via untrusted input can be caused by malicious applications, client-side injection and abusing of URL machines. Probably, or most of the time, a combination. Things you can do with this, well, sky is the limit. You can abuse a lot of things. How, as a developer, can we prevent these things? So, the same things we have to do for the client-side injection. We should also ensure that additional steps are required to launch sensitive actions. So if you have an application and you're supposed to enter a name, be sure that you block the application when he tries to call another application, or he loses his focus. That's something you can do. Yep. Okay. Risk number 8. Side channel leakage. Happens a lot. Really, a lot of mobile applications have this without anybody being aware of it. What's the problem? You have sensitive data, or whatever data, appears on places where it was unintended to be. So just think an application is storing the data in cache, in memory. For a long time it's not cleaned. A hacker can easily read the memory of the phone and get this data. Or, I have a malicious application, I can read whatever is in memory. Keystroke logging is also obvious. Taking screenshots without you noticing, or even you noticing. I'm entering a password, my user credentials. By coincidence, I take a screenshot, and if I did not hide the password, it's visible for everybody afterwards. So there's also something as a developer of mobile applications, you have to think about the stupid customer who makes a screenshot of your app. It's a very stupid thing to do, but it will happen. We really have to make it idiot-proof. The things developers put in log files, unbelievable. We'll afterwards show an example. Or in things that are stored in temporarily directories. And also data captured and stored by third-party libraries. You found something, a very nice API, a cloud application, to get, for instance, the weather forecasting. And this application, as one of the parameters, asks you to store your user ID and password. Of course, you're not going to do this. What you need is, but so means be careful with it. An example. We have this source code. What's going to happen? So, if I log on and everything is fine, no problem. If a problem arises, whatever problem, it will store the data in a log file. Fail to log in with a username, password. At least one of these two is incorrect. Could also be that one of these two is very correct. Very likely. And we put it in a log file. It's readable for everybody. No JSB code, by the way, found it on the internet. Yeah. How to prevent this? You can prevent this by testing your applications on as many platforms or platform versions as possible. If you make an application for Android, test it on each version which you have available, because each version will be different. You will have different security threats related to this. Building an iOS application, make sure that you have an iPhone 5 with iOS 6 on it, so you can test it. It's not because it works on your iPhone 4 that it will also work correctly in the next version. And of course, never log sensitive data in system logs. But you easily do this. As a developer, I'm debugging, I put it in a log file so I can easily check what the testers are doing, and then afterwards I forget to remove it. When you use third-party components, so nice to use them without studying them. Wrong. First have a look at them. What are they really doing? Study them. Which data are they storing? What do they do with my data? Do they sell it to someone else? Do they make it public on the cloud? Study it. Google it. Go to to fora where they give comments on it. And before each release, before you put something in production, have your application audited. Have a code review. And of course, not a review by yourself, because you will not read the code anymore. You don't see the mistakes anymore. You've been focusing on it for a few weeks, months. Have someone else reviewing it. Yep. Then we go to risk number 9. Broken cryptography. 2 main causes of it. 1, you made use of a well-known library, but you did not implement it in a correct way, or you never changed it. You use the same library for years, or the same logic. Or you decided, because you thought these these libraries are so well known that somebody could hack it, and you think, well, I'm smarter, I'm going to develop it myself. But you didn't do it in a correct way, which is very likely, because it's a complex thing. And you made a weak implementation of it. I do not need to explain what the risks are of this, I guess. How can we prevent it? Any ideas? Yes, no, you have. So, do not store your key and encrypted data together. Sounds ridiculous, isn't it? I'm going to encrypt everything and I store the encryption key together with my encrypted data. Happens a lot. Stupid mistake. So if you do this, if you decide to do this, do not encrypt anything at all. It'll be much easier. Also, before you think about creating your own libraries, crypto libraries, think twice. Because it's really complicated, and you probably do not have the skills and the time yourself to have a real battle-tested application or encryption logic like these libraries you can use have. They really have teams, spend a lot of time on it. So, not saying it's always the best thing to use an existing library, but think twice before doing it yourself. Also related to this, take advantage of what your platform provides you. Yep. The last one, sensitive information disclosure. Like this example, of course, you do not want to do that. But it happens. So what are we talking about? Risk number 1 was about data stored in files, or really in real storage. Here we're talking about data stored inside your application. Data embedded in your code, or hard-coded data. But you have to consider that mobile applications, which you distribute to local devices, can easily be reverse engineered. And source code can contain a lot of treasures. If you look at this, so nice. Also no JSB code. So we have this comment, our secret backdoor account. Ooh, nice. So we have everything. Just in the source code, as a present. Also take care with comments. I found on the internet source code where you say, this is the magical formula for the encryption, with everything explained in comments. In 10 minutes you have it. Well, bye-bye encryption, bye-bye security. Yeah. Well, the impact of this, don't think I need to explain it. How can you prevent this? Do not only rely on code obfuscation. You all know what it is, code obfuscation? There's a first thing, but you cannot rely on this only. Because somebody who's really interested in hacking your application, he will find a way to deal with it. Be careful with comments. Commenting your code, of course, I advise you to do this. It's recommended, like out of discussion. But be careful what you put in it. You're not going to explain the encryption logic. If you want to explain this to other developers, refer to an internal document. please find this document on this location within our company, but do not explain it in source code. Really big security risk. And even more important, if you have sensitive logic, do not put it in a front-end application. That's something you put really on the back end. Remember my Angry Birds with all the different layers? Sensitive business logic is within the core. You have to pass by all the layers before you can touch this. Will also help you in reusing this logic with other distribution platforms. This was basically my story.
How is the transfer secured from the application to your servers? Is it secured against man-in-the-middle attacks? Like if you're listening on a network, if you are on Wi-Fi, and for example, I'm paying with my application, your application, which I don't, but I would be. Yeah. And I'm paying for something, for a bill or whatever, and I listen, and somebody listens to the transfer. Is it secured? Is it secured by the application, or it's hardware, or what kind of a security is on the device? Because if I have a rooted device, how can I be sure? I wouldn't have to be aware of situation. Yeah. Somebody rooted my device while I was on the toilet. Okay.
Looks possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it's a very good question. Unfortunately, as I cannot trust you, I cannot dive into the details. It's with this story. But what can I say? We indeed took this into account. We even hired a company specialized in hacking, and they try to do that kind of things. And because we spread out the security over different levels, different layers, we could deal with this. But I'm afraid I cannot tell you all the details, otherwise it's not secure anymore. But it's a very good question.
And that's the only question really interesting.
Yeah, that is indeed very interesting. But I'm afraid, you will understand I cannot, it's the holy grail of the security of our app.
Well, then somebody has to find out hard way, probably.
But there's also something we're looking at, even implementing.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, do you think that your encryption schemes should be like tested by, let's say, open source community or something, or should I like just you keep them secret and obfuscate everything you can?
Well, people have different opinions about this. Me personally, I do not trust the open source community in this. Everything that is open source is public by definition.
Well, I mean by like designing maybe a scheme that can be open, but the results are private and the process itself doesn't need to be secure. I mean by hidden, just the process of encrypting the data should be like transparent, but you know, like you don't need to hide your scheme at all, you just need to be basically intouchable by it.
Yeah. So you don't have to hide the schema, but even if you don't hide it, that's really the first layer that will be detected. So my opinion is, yes, you could use this, you could do it in that way, because hiding it's worthless. There are only a few libraries and a hacker will try them all. Yeah. So I tend to agree.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's not a complete answer to the question? Yeah. Or Gustavo, do you want to add something to this?
Well, basically, what Kris says, when it's open source, something open source community, well, the logic, people knows it, yeah. But there is something that you can rely on is on the device developer, because they have hardware encryption, yeah. And you can at least, not 100%, but I will say 90% you can rely that this thing is gonna still apply in 5 years, 10 years, yeah. And so you can I will not recommend doing an open source test, but basically rely on the platform developer, Google or Apple.
Because these guys have teams full-time busy with only the protection of it. And if they have security leaks, they will announce it immediately and update it immediately. But that's the big advantage of it. You could argument that in the open source community it's the same. Have a lot of people, maybe even more people than Apple has, busy with this because they try to find the weaknesses. But a company like Apple, they really know the device much, much better, also all the secrets, because they do not have everything public. So I tend to trust a company like Apple or Google.